quick start guide for getting Project Photon working on VMware Fusion on a Mac. Most of what you can see here can be translated to run on a Windows machine running VMware Workstation. So first we're going to start up Fusion, and we're going to install from a disk or image. So I'm assuming you've already either downloaded the Project Fusion ISO from the VMware website or cloned a copy from GitHub and built it yourself using the instructions available. So I'm going to pick my disk ISO, it's my Photon ISO here, click continue. So in terms of operating system, Photon is based off Linux kernel, so I'm going to choose Linux, and I'm going to pick other 64-bit 3.0 kernel and make a few customizations. The first thing I'll do is save my virtual machine, and we remove a few devices that we don't need. So there's absolutely no need for us to have the camera, so we'll take that away. We'll take away the printer, and there's no point in showing the Bluetooth devices through or have a sound card. So the purpose of Photon is to be very stripped down, so I'm taking out the virtual hardware devices that I really don't need. I'm also going to do a customization to the processors and memory and give myself an extra core and a little bit more memory. These two customizations are entirely optional. It depends on the size of the containers that you're going to be running inside Photon, whether you're going to need more memory or more resources, of course. The other thing I'm going to do is check my advanced options here and just check that the hypervisor extensions are disabled and code profiling is disabled. Currently containers don't use any kind of Intel VT or EPT acceleration for virtualization, unlike traditional virtual machines. Okay, so that's my processors and memory selected. I'm also going to check my display, make sure 3D graphics are turned off. As I say, it's a simple virtual machine, there's no need for extra complexity. Having confirmed all those details, I'm going to close that window and start up the installation. First thing we're presented with is the boot menu, so I'm just going to choose install. And now we can select which disk we're going to install onto. So I'm only presented with a single virtual disk, which is the default configuration when we create a virtual machine under VMware Fusion. So I'm going to choose this disk, confirm it's okay to erase this disk, and now I can choose which type of Photon installation we actually want to install. We've got a few choices here, and the first option I've got is the Photon OS micro install. And this is a completely stripped down version of Photon that can serve as a containerized application runtime but doesn't have any packages for general operation or actually hosting containers. So this version is best suited for running an application as a container. It has an extremely limited set of packages installed and might be considered the most secure version. The next option I have is Photon Container OS, and this installation choice is once again very minimal, very lightweight, but designed for container host runtime. So it's best suited for running containers and hosting applications inside those containers. There's sufficient packaging and functionality to allow most common operations around modifying existing containers, as well as being highly performant and fully featured runtime. The next option I have is a full OS install for Photon. Photon Full includes several additional packages to enhance the authoring and packaging of containerized applications and system configuration. For simply running containers, Photon Full will be overkill. You should use Photon Full for developing and packaging the application that will be run as a container, as well as authoring the container itself, and for testing and validation purposes. Photon Full will include all the components necessary to run containers, as well as authoring. The last option we have here is a Photon custom operating system install, and this option gives us complete flexibility and control as to how we want to create a specific container runtime environment. You can use the Photon Custom OS install option to create a specific environment that might add incremental or specific functionality between the micro and the minimum footprints, or if there's a specific framework that you would like to be installed. So for the purposes of this walkthrough, I'm going to choose option number 3 and give myself the full operating system with all the packages installed. Next thing I need to specify is a hostname. and provide a root password. Of course, make it something you're going to remember. And now Photon's installing into my virtual machine. Okay, so Photon's installed. We'll press any key to restart the machine. Photon comes back up and we should get a login prompt in just a moment. Okay, so I've now got my container runtime virtual machine ready to go. So let's actually log on and run a containerized application. So log on as root. And the first thing I'm actually going to do is start the Docker daemon and set the Docker daemon up to automatically run next time I restart this virtual machine. So system control, enable the Docker daemon on restart, and system control, start Docker now. So my Docker daemon is now running in the background. So let's actually run a container. Docker run. Let's map my network ports. So I'm going to map my container port 80 to my virtual machines port 80. I intend to run a web server. And specify the name of the container that I'm going to run. Okay, so Docker can't actually find the container that I want on the local virtual machine. So it's gone out to the network, up to the Docker hub, to actually download that container for me. So hopefully that's not going to take too long. So what we're seeing here is Docker actually downloading all the dependent layers of this container. Okay, and we've finished downloading the container. So that should be running. Let's just quickly check. Okay, so I can now see that my container is actually running inside my Photon virtual machine. Let's actually look at it through a web browser. So the first thing I need to do is actually get the IP address of this virtual machine. So let's look at ifconfig and look at the IP and fire up a browser to take a look. Okay, so the IP address 192.168.128.147 on port 80. And there we go. There's our web server running on Photon in a container. Okay, so we successfully installed Project Photon into a VMware Fusion virtual machine and downloaded and started a container. We've tested it to make sure it works. So this getting started guide is now completed. Thank you for watching. Hopefully you found the information useful and you'll watch more videos from us in the future. Thank you for your time.